6:38. Give everybody just a couple minutes to pop in. I'm going to sit here and maybe work on something, but I'm going to have a talk. I am so tired. My weekend was so full, and it was a lot of effort on me and my body to get through it. And I made it through it, but today has been like, it's just needed to rest and recoup. So I look like atrocious, but my body has just needed a lot of rest today. And I let it have it. I was so tired. I just had to put myself first and say, hey, you need rest. So dishes haven't been done. Nothing's been done, but I feel better. Hey, Gypsy. So over the weekend, I had a friend that I've talked to for quite a while, like over a year, about almost everything. Do like a 180 and start asking me different questions from a different standpoint with a different emotion behind it. It seemed like there was a different intent and really wanted me to engage, which meant I went, now, I'm going to think about this for a minute because it was a shift in behavior. And when there's a shift in behavior, I'm going to sit my butt down and watch you for a minute. If I was ever riding a horse and I'd rode it 180 times, hi, Gypsy, hi, Denise. If I was riding a horse and I'd ridden it 180 times and I saddled up and it acted different than those, than the balance of those 180 previous times, I would go, well, let's hop off and groundwork you for a minute because I think you're fixing to do something I'm not going to like. So I still have one fly in my house. As many as I kill, it's so cold that all the flies are trying to move in here. It's driving me nuts. But anyway. So when this behavior changed and I knew I did not have the energy to interact because they kept asking for a voice chat. And I was like, I don't have the energy to take on this battle right now. Why did I think it was going to be a battle? Because we have had mutual respect in all previous discussions. And this one felt different and it felt pushing. I was being pushed and prodded. I can voice chat now. Are you ready to voice chat? I can voice chat now, knowing the weekends are the only time I get to see my husband. And they desperately wanted my time to the point where I was getting multiple messages. And the messages were kind of more aggressive. It changed from I can see both sides to someone was 100% in the wrong. And I'm sitting there going, whoa, that's an extreme view. Because I'm here to tell you, even the people I hate are never 100% in the wrong. Everyone has got a validity point somewhere. You just have to back up and see it. So I was like, okay, this is, I felt really like this was going to be a combative engagement. And I was like, I'm choosing not to have this combative engagement right now. Number one, because I really like this person. I really enjoyed their normal train of thought and how they converse and share their difference of opinions. This did not sound like the same person. It sounded like I was definitely being baited into an argument. And so I just kind of backed away. And I'm not saying this to be mean. So if this person watches this, I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm telling you authentically how I was made to feel by the prodding and the vernacular and the wording that you chose to send me. So I try to be really honest. I'm really honest. Like just a minute ago, I was on my front porch and my neighbors were sassing each other. And then he got a little threatening to his wife. And I was feeding my cats, and I stepped up and I said, whoa, 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 let's act like we love each other here for just a goddamn minute. And he goes, oh, sorry they didn't see me on the porch. I'm sorry I got a little emotional there, didn't I? Yep, not good to threaten a little skinny woman when there's a big hoss living next door. Y'all been married for a long time. Remember why. Go love on each other for a minute. Take a break. And they listened to me, and they went and took a break. So I have no issue sharing my perspective. And I will step into the middle of almost everything. But this fly's killing me. I'm armed and dangerous, y'all. I'm just telling you, I'm waiting to get it. But this really felt combative. This really felt like he wanted to have an altercation with me specifically. And so that made me go, why are you pulling me by the nose? Don't pull me by the nose. I don't like that. Don't pull me by the nose. And so I just chose not to engage. So I just kind of rested, did my own thing, and didn't worry about that. Thought he'll cool down and I'll eventually have the energy to deal with it. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about this because this is specifically geared toward Miss Patty and Ron. And everything that's culminated over the last several months with this Rodney case and all the emotions and haughtiness and cha-chinging that YouTubers and people have created over this case, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy that people make such money off of other people's misfortune. I mean, it's really sad when you think about it. Like, if you look at active missing persons cases in the GoFundMes, not a lot of aid being given. But if you look at YouTubers that talk about people that have met tragic ends, a lot of money being given. Yeah, a lot of money being made. Kind of makes us look at where we put our energy a little bit. But anyway, so one of the most specific messages that was sent to me where they stated that they believed that Ryan was 100% in the wrong. Okay, well, take that one off the table. No one can ever be 100% in the wrong. Even the people that I absolutely abhor are never 100% wrong. Someone will always have some component to their argument, which is valid, whether it's from an emotional standpoint or just from their belief standpoint. It's going to be valid and it's going to be theirs. And you're going to have to let them have it. And so no one is ever 100% wrong. So when you start off saying this person is 100% wrong, I already know that there is no wiggle room for thought there and that we're going to have an issue. If you've already come into this, that there's 100% no chance that you're going to say anything positive about this person they're going to believe, that's already a bad omen. There's no room for negotiation there. So that was my first indication this was not going to go well. Music, good on you. That's why I don't want to monetize. I talk about things that are very emotional or things that are kind of what I consider kind of big topics, kind of, those big, you have one of those world shattering ideas. I don't want people to think they need to pay me to sit down and talk about something that is so close to my heart, because it's close to my heart. What's close to your heart may not be the same thing. And I don't want people to pay for that. It's stuff that I don't think should be monetized. If I'm giving you a piece of my heart, I don't think you should pay me for it. Yeah, now he's done some stuff. I will agree. Ryan has done some stuff that I don't like. I didn't like it when he got really aggressive, when that one panel started turning into a tit for tat, and he got very aggressive. I didn't like that. I didn't like the words he chose, the voice he used. But I also wasn't in that discussion. So, if I was in there, I possibly could have de-escalated it. But I also know that he kind of gives what he gets. So it's the circle of people he's in and how they behave. I choose to not watch him on the channels that get really hateful with him, that really kind of get mad with him. I watch him on the channels where he's softer, because there are certain channels that he respects what the creator puts out as rules. And so I will watch him on the kinder channels, but there's some channels I won't watch him on because they get really combative and I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that side of Ryan, so I'm not going to watch that. If he chooses to go there, he's a grown man. I can't stop him, but I choose not to watch that because I don't want to promote that and I don't want to support that. But at the same time, him having a view and an opinion and verbalizing it however he wants to, he's a grown man. He's allowed to do that. I just choose not to support the verbalization that I wouldn't choose to say. So I step back from that. I think when it comes to donating money to YouTubers, I don't like it because you never know a YouTuber. Even as much as y'all think you know me, you don't. it takes so long to get to know somebody. And so lots of times he wants to like be a blessing to people and donate money, only to find out if he would have watched them longer, he may not have given them money. So I don't fault him with giving money and trying to be a blessing to people. I would say maybe he might want to watch them for a few more days or a few more times if he has the ability, and get to know them a little better to see if that's someone he truly would like to give money to. If maybe they're not someone that is kind of off the radar a little bit, he just hasn't caught it. I'm very picky about where I put my funds. Of course, my funds are limited. I'm very picky about where I put my funds. So I'm going to watch people and really get to know them. And there are some people I don't like. Like when I saw Ryan on Molly Go Lightly, I about gagged him and like threw up in my mouth. Because I was like, there's no reason why you should be on that woman's channel. A woman is nothing but trouble. A woman is nothing but trouble and wants nothing but money and attention. Thank you, Oscar, for eating and drinking as soon as I go live. Thank you. And he found out very quickly, too. He was kind of disgusted with it as well. But he makes those mistakes. And we've all gotten on YouTube and made those mistakes as well. We notice them more when they're his mistakes, though, because he has got such a large footprint as a celebrity. But if you think back, we've all gone and visited channels and supported people that we later found out that was a mistake. So we can't call him out on behavior that we've done ourselves. Even though he's a celebrity, he still has the human component, and he still makes every, possible mistake that we make. That's just the human component. He doesn't have any special skills or special detective. He can't pull a background in 5 minutes of a YouTuber. He runs on emotion like we do, and sometimes he gets caught up in it, and that's very understandable. But the one particular argument that this person wanted to have was that they felt he was 100% wrong and that Miss Patty enables him. And I thought this is a very big discussion we probably need to have, because enabling is a big buzzword right now. And enabling from that particular perspective, from like a diagnostic mental health, behavioral addiction kind of standpoint, which is, there's one fly in here, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. Yeah, he's very much still a kid. And like I've told you before, he's been pretty much famous since he was a teenager. And so he has been, even though he's lived a good life and he's got good people around him, he has lived an insulated life. So he has not experienced as much of the social dynamic as we have. Now, in other ways, he's much more competent in society with the fame side of it, with the contracts and stuff like that. He's much more well-versed in that. But as far as like social dynamics and behavior, no, he's not as well-versed as we are. And so I kind of take that to know that he's been insulated and has not experienced some real-world things from my perspective, from a regular citizen's perspective, because of that insulation. And he needs that insulation due to the fame. And so I have to kind of go, okay, I can, offer a little bit of grace there. Yeah. And it's very difficult when you are a celebrity to not get surrounded by yes people because of what you can offer people. So it's you have to be so careful about who you put around you and who you choose to be around. And I would love to be someone who helped pick the people that spend time around him, because sometimes I do think he gets a lot of smoke blowers and they're just there to blow smoke up his butt. And I think he thinks they have good intentions because they're good old boys. But lots of times I see them supporting him in endeavors that they should have been like, we'll pump the brakes, bud. This may not be the best option right now. Let's think about it for a few days, But then again, he's an adult. So, unless he asked me to help him make those decisions, I got no right to do it. And so I do question some of the people that he puts in his circle. And I think he tries to pick kind of some homegrown people. But at the same time, even the homegrown people, sometimes even the homegrown people will turn into smoke blowers. Even the most hardcore country bumpkin, I'm after these flies, people. Even the most hardcore country bumpkin, grounded person can turn into a smoke blower just for reasons that you may not understand. So I do think I would like to see his circle kind of viewed from an external perspective every once in a while by someone that is not like attached in the circle, just to kind of say, hey, we've got some balance issues for you, and we're seeing this or that, and whether he wants to act or not can be up to him, but it might be nice for him to see, or to at least hear. So, but the 2 points specifically were that he was 100% wrong, and that Miss Patty was enabling him and allowing him basically to have all this behavior. And from those 2 statements, I knew at that point that this was going to be an argument. This is not going to be a conversation. This is not going to be a dialogue. This is not going to be a normal exchange of ideas that I normally have with this person, because those were the 2 things they led with. And then I was contacted every little bit, voice chat, voice chat, voice chat. And so I was, when you feel somebody nipping at your heels, I just kind of go, that's okay. You just wait, cool down. And that's a federal offense. Denise, that's a federal offense. I have a lot of questions about a lot of people on YouTube. Let me just tell you. Some of them are just, crooked as a dog's hind leg. And it just, I have a lot of questions about people on YouTube. Why they think they can get on this box and get away with stuff that they can't get away in real life, because federal law and stuff still comes through here. Yeah, it may take them longer to figure out, find you, get you, or pin you with something. But if you break the law through here, you're still breaking it in real life. Like, this is not fictitious land. You still can do things. So you have to be super careful. I know I have no respect for that woman. We'll just say that. But here's what I need to say and to put out there about enabling. When you have an adult child, which is what Ryan is to Miss Patty, people they still want to put the role of mother on that woman, and they still want to put the role of child on Ryan. And that can't happen, because he is an adult now. So even though she is still his mother, he is an adult. So that changes the dynamic. And you have to acknowledge that. You can't sit here and say that she can turn him over her knee and bust his butt and make the world right. I mean, I'm 44. Even at the age of 30, I would not have stood for that. No, that I'm an adult. So you have to understand that the dynamic is no longer mother-child. Okay, she's still his mother, but the dynamic changes and it grows, because now he is his own person and he is awarded rights by our nation constitutionally. So there are certain things that she cannot get in on. Now, she can obviously tell him where she stands, but there are certain things she can't do anymore. Okay, she cannot dictate his world. So I got really kind of, comical with it, because I thought, what 30-year-old man would want his mama smacking his butt and saying, you better behave? And so for, another mature male to tell me that, I was like, and what would you do if your mama turned you over her knee? How would you respond? What would you think that dynamic was, And so sometimes we expect of others what we won't allow ourselves. And it's like, why? Like, we set our expectations on others so differently than we set our expectations on ourselves. Why? Because we think we live by different standards. We don't. People need to chuck that one right out the window. I can get away with this, but they better be held to the fire. No, that we can't do that. We can't place standards on others that we won't allow on ourselves, vice versa. We've got to look at things straight up, as unemotionally and as straightforward and as logically as possible. So that's when he said, okay, he's 100% wrong. Okay, we're already in the no negotiation bounds, and you've made your mind up 100%, and this is going to be bad. His mother is enabling him, even though he's a 30-year-old man. Okay, and here's where I went from this. Let's understand that enabling, there would be certain things that Miss Patty would have to be doing to purely be enabling him to the point of toxicity. to where his behavior was because of her enabling. And she would have to completely ignore any problematic behavior, which she is not. She's gotten on some panels and been like, I don't agree with everything the boy says, but he's an adult. She stated that she likes that he's concerned about missing kids and that he gets passionate about things that concern him, but she doesn't always agree with every thought he has. And he's a grown man. I understand that. I have a son that's roughly in the same age group. I don't always agree with every thought pattern the boy has. And sometimes I go, oh, was that like a brain fart or something? But he's an adult. And even sometimes when he gets a little tad too emotional, I'm at least glad that my child is passionate about something. He took a very strong, stance on his work and his work ethic earlier this year and had to switch jobs, and it terrified me for his family and the well-being of everything. But, and I was like, is he taking this too far? But no, he was right. And I had to sit back and go, he's an adult. He's allowed to make these decisions. If he feels that way, he has to, I had to sit down and shut up because he's an adult. And as a mother, I can support him and love him. And I can sometimes voice where I think, I don't really agree with that, but you do what you're going to do, Bo. It's your right, boy. You go. And sometimes he'll heed me and sometimes he won't, but I certainly can't control him. He's a grown man. So I understand the plot there. Sometimes we have to watch our children take roads and paths that we would not necessarily take ourselves. And it's difficult on our heartstrings, but it's absolutely necessary for our children. It's part of their life path. And a lot of people don't understand that until they have children of their own. And then you go, oh, this is more difficult than I thought. This is definitely got some catch-22s in here. Yeah, this is hard. I held other people's feet to the fire and I didn't realize how hard this was. Having children, watching them grow up and be adults is very difficult. So you go through a lot of emotions and a lot of little gaps in time where you wish you could still mother to a certain extent, but you can't because they're adults. So I understand Miss Patty, but she certainly did not ignore the problematic behavior. She's like, he can fight for himself. I don't have to do that. And she's like, but I don't agree with everything he says, but he's grown. I can respect that because I have to take the same stance with my son. She certainly is not financially funding him, which makes this practical and easy. He's financially funding himself, so we can't put that on her. He's doing all this on his own. She's not providing him any ease. Like, she's not paying the rent so he can sit in the basement on the internet all day. He's funding his own life, so she's not enabling him in that manner. She doesn't cover for his behavior. She's called it out a few times, and she says she doesn't agree with all of it. She chooses not to get into really nitpicky, elaborate conversations most of the time. And I understand, because that's just a spiral downward, because if you allow somebody to tear something apart, they'll tear everything else apart. And it's just like, Lord have mercy, I shouldn't have opened that door, because once you open the gate, all the heifers run in and you can't stop them. That's okay, Daniel. My internet's there doing something wonky with the towers up here. It's okay. You go right ahead. I appreciate you dropping in. To enable him, Miss Patty would have to take on more than her share of responsibilities in his world. She doesn't. She stated many times that, she lives at Ghost Ranch, with the other kids. I think there's some other kids that live with her. She does her own thing. Her and Tamara have their own business. She makes her paycheck and she does her thing, and she keeps her YouTube separate, and she kind of goes that way. And Ryan's in his world. The fans that come over and are polite, she's polite to them, but she really is addressing her passion, her thoughts, her likes, and her money does not funnel to Ryan. Now, Ryan might funnel some money to his mama, which I think every celebrity boy should do. But she certainly does not financially support him, which enables his behavior. So we have to take that one off the shelf. She doesn't take on more of her responsibilities, more of his responsibilities than hers. She's focused on her world right now. Miss Patty is kind of coming to her second childhood, and she's doing things that she's passionate about, and she's thrifting and vintage clothes and spending time with Tamara and her other close friends, and she's trying to kind of do like a positivity vibe because she's noticed there's so much darkness on the web, which I completely respect. Now, is that always going to stay on the up and up and always go right? No. Because if you try to be positive, then there are going to be people that are going to try to wreck you from the get-go. So you're still going to have issues. You're still going to have people that are going to come in and create problems. And you just have to continuously try to stay positive, which I think is what they're trying to do. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking care of your mama. Good Lord. You love my heifer analogies thing. Oh, I'm glad you do. My internet has been horrible, and they're supposed to be adding towers, but the towers are not helping the signal. Go figure. Y'all know my thoughts on that. She doesn't avoid or deny the problem. She said, I don't agree with everything he says. So she recognizes that he tests bounds, and she acknowledges that it even makes her uncomfortable, and there are certain things that she doesn't agree with. So she's saying, if you have that same emotion, I understand. So she's certainly not trying to throw off anything on that. She doesn't sacrifice herself to have him recognized. It's almost the opposite. When you're on her channel, she keeps it to where you're talking about her and Tamara and the vintage clothing and positivity and stuff like that. She really doesn't want a lot of Ryan talk on her channel because her and Tamara, they're working on this business format for vintage clothing, and they don't want people in there for the wrong reason. And so one of the other messages I got was like, he said, I even tried to go on their panel and they kicked me out when I asked, and I was like, okay, that was your first problem, because their channel is separate from Ron. They've said that 100 million times. Everything they do on that channel is per their vintage clothing, their passions, Tamara's businesses, and their little positivity family. They want no discussion of Ron in that area. Really, honestly, they try to limit it as much as possible. And I've seen that a multitude of times. So perhaps if you had asked a question or asked for the rules or asked if you may talk about Ryan, they would have explained that to you. But if you just point blank come on kind of hostile and start pointing out stuff, they'll just kick you because they don't want to deal with that. That is not Ryan's channel. They've said it several times. This is not Ryan's channel. This channel is not about Ryan. This channel has nothing to do with Ryan. We're here for our businesses, our vintage clothing, and our passions, and trying to be positive. So I understand why they may have booted people that try to bring a conversation there that they don't want to have there. That's their YouTube channel, and they get to dictate what goes on there. I know we have the same goddamn internet, Kim, and it's worse, but I think a lot of it is YouTube doesn't like what I talk about. Now, this is how she has handled this. She has kept her boundaries. So her channel is her channel. You know, she's voiced that, and she put that boundary there, and she kicks people out if they come there and want to start Ryan drama. I commend the woman for this because she deserves to have her own little niche and to have people that love her and for her vintage clothing and her businesses and aren't worried about Ryan. She deserves that. She's a human being. She deserves people that want to be there for her. Not everything is about Ryan. We're all not shoved up his butt, contrary to popular belief. I adore the boy, but there are some things I'd like to sit down and have hard conversations with him about, particularly how he gets emotionally led in heated conversations. He needs to stop that. Particularly how he turns very abrasive too quickly when faced with certain contradictions. I would like to talk about that. A lot of that is age and maturity and social savviness. And like I said, he's been insulated. There, you know, being in that fame world, being insulated, he's not got as many different challenges as most of us living in the real world have. And while he's lived a good life and he's a good old boy and he tries to be as normal as possible, he still has not had as many of those rough social interactions as we've had, because he does have kind of an insulation protection team around him, which he absolutely needs, because let's face it, society's crazy. But Patty's maintaining her boundaries. She says no to people. That's why she kicks people out. And she's making sure that she is spiritually taken care of. She's making sure that she's taking care of self, no matter what's going on in Ryan's world. So she is not denying herself or her passions or her life or putting more of her energy in her son. She's not enabling him. So what she is doing is taking a step back and saying, I cannot control him. And while I might be able to have a private word with him, I have to understand that he's an adult and he can do whatever he chooses. And I might be able to voice my displeasure, but I obviously can't change the way he's going to be. But what is happening is other people are looking for blame. They're looking to lay blame. And if, Ryan is a moving target, he's very hard to catch and make feel bad. Because he's a moving target and he could give a rat's hiney in what somebody thinks about him, which is sometimes healthy and sometimes not. Let's just be honest. It depends on the mindset and the emotional framework around it. Let's just be honest. That's a whole nother conversation. But he's a moving target. And he goes from one topic, subject, conversation to the next without really carrying a lot of that emotional baggage. So it doesn't really weigh him down. So when people really try to rag on him, it doesn't really bother him. It doesn't really break him down. It doesn't really hurt him. And normally when people have something they're so passionate about blaming on someone, they really want to see remorse or harm. And so when they don't see it from him, then they have to find a target that they can see it from. I'm going to kill this fly in a minute. That's where I am. So when they don't see that they're going to be able to harm him, they go, well, who's the next closest target? His mother. And so they go to lay blame on her. Now, in the real world, if someone had come into my office and been like, you need to have a talk with this mother, they're enabling this boy's behavior, I'd be like, what are they financially providing? Are they providing meals, housing, security, insurance? Are they forcing them to work? And there would be no interaction. Oh, he's of age, lives separate, has his own income, finances his own life, takes care of himself. I don't see any way that this mother can finagle to have an enabling relationship, especially as separate as they both are, as they're two very polar opposite people in behaviors and actions and YouTube personalities. And I mean, you can just see that, while they love each other, they absolutely have two very separate lives, but they love each other when they see each other, but they have two very separate lives. So if somebody came into my counseling world and said that, I would be like, but she's not providing anything that she needs to take away. The only thing she's providing is a little bit of love, and that's never going to dissipate. Even with possibly a sense of doubt about some statements, the love is never going to dissipate. So are you asking me for her to take away that love? Because that's a whole nother problem. That way I would look at that person and go, and what are you trying to do? Because now we may have potentially a problem with how you're navigating society and the expectations you put on others versus real expectations we can place on others. And it's just that's problematic. Thinking that we have some kind of marionette power over others, that's scary. So I found it all very disconcerting, and I knew that it was going to be a combative discussion, and that's why I didn't go into it. And I thought, well, I'll just wait and do it. And I told them I was going to wait and do a video response because there was too much to unpack. And I knew that I would not get to state it without a lot of interjections and disruptions. So I thought this was the best way to do it. Now, the thing that really irritated me otherwise, I mean irritated me, I'm not going to say it was troubling, I'm going to say pure irritation, was that they then upheld the psychobabble dude. That man has got such a toxic environment. And he is being enabled financially by others. And the more toxic he becomes, the more enabled he becomes, because people respond to that, want to see how far he'll go, and keep sending him money. And he gins up the hate. There's no positive conversation. He gins up the hate. He's very negative. He's very condescending. He speaks to people in hypersexualized manners, even though he has no age restriction on his channel, and he doesn't know how old the person that is speaking to him is. And sometimes he says stuff, and I've been like, whoa, 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 whoa. If somebody could prove that was an underage child and you didn't put an age restriction on your channel, and that conversation just happened, you could be in trouble, buddy. Whoa, blew my mind. I don't spend any more time on his channel. I think he's toxic. He does everything through the power of shame, guilt, and harassment. And there's no way that you can use any of those without it being a negative encounter. So I see nothing positive about that man. Not Kim, take a nap. I've napped all day because I felt like crap. So y'all be safe on the roads. So that was my third indication that if he was going to uphold or try to sustain behaviors from this man as positive, I knew that there was not going to be a very good dialogue to be had. Because and I've tried to have a well-rounded perception, and I've asked other people that are still in my friendship circle that are still practicing, go look at this. Tell me what you think. And they're the same thing. They're like, okay, bless his heart. He's completely overshadowing the problems in his own life to put the, this here because he feels good when he's in this mode. He doesn't have to remember and think about things back here when he's up here. So he's staying here in his brain, and those people really like it. They're kind of living vicariously. They're sending him money to keep him ginned up here, and he keeps them ginned up. It's kind of a self-fulfilling negative prophecy, if you will. And it's very toxic. And I think sometimes he gets very close to criminal behavior in some of his communication. And it's scary to think that somebody that is using those tactics would be upheld and sponsored by so many. It terrifies me, actually, that people would be like, oh, but he has a point. Now, he can't be 100% wrong. I'm sure that there's an inkling of validity in what he's feeling, even though he's probably buried it behind 500,000 other things at this point. If you really were to sit down with him and talk about what the actual problem is, you'd probably find a very small, marble-sized issue that he has covered and covered and covered to create a mountain of emotions. And that's why it comes across, it comes across as such an issue. It's because he keeps shoving emotions on it instead of handling that little marble-sized problem. And that's what I think his channel mostly is. And sadly, people are drawn to that. They're drawn to the emotional instability and the behavioral spontaneity that's mostly negative. And I just don't enjoy that. Yeah, I don't like the energy. So I just don't enjoy that. So I don't spend my time there. So that's why I chose not to do a voice chat. And number two, it's my weekend. I had stuff scheduled, spend time with my husband. It's the first time he's had 2 days off in a row in months. And I was just not going to try to mess up my positive weekend when someone obviously wanted to create kind of a combative narrative with me. And I was like, I'm not giving you that. And I also, really hope that this is just kind of a one-off for this person. Because normally they're very easy to communicate. But I will tell you what happens when you stay in a toxic environment. You start to normalize and justify. So people ask me, well, why do people keep going back to psychobabble? Well, they get drawn in by the emotional amplification, the adrenaline, the endorphin, the serotonin, and then they start to go, oh, well, he said that 4 or 5 times. Well, that must be real. That must be true. We start to digest and believe his belief system, which is very skewed and very, very scary sometimes. But they start to kind of just chant it backwards. It's just regurgitation of his beliefs. If you step in a scuzzy pond, eventually the algae is going to grow on you. So you have to make sure you don't place yourself in those environments for too long. Otherwise, you will become part of them. And so back away, get a better grasp on reality, look at a few other perspectives, and challenge yourself. Never sit at the same table more than once, because the people you spend your time with are the people that you emulate. Be careful. That can do some damage. So, you have to, I certainly don't want people to think that I'm abrasive and nasty. And, I would like for people to think that I'm well-rounded and thought-provoking, and I like to quietly contemplate things and talk about things. I would hate for people to think that if they come here, they're looking for a adrenaline or dopamine burst out of aggression. That would not, I would not like that. That's not what I'm trying to create here. And it's certainly not in, environments that I like to walk head on into or be pulled by the nose into. So I just kind of took the weekend for myself and thought I'll just do a video response. It's just the only way that I can do this. Now, are there toxic things within mother and son relationships? In every one of them. Can you point some out in Patty and Ron's relationship? Oh yeah, because they're in every mother-son, mother-child relationship. You can always find something negative or toxic. We're imperfect, flawed human beings. You're going, my Lord, if you look at my relationship with my son, you're going to find toxic, flawed behaviors. And you just hope that you have more positive than negative as you raise children. You really do. But you can't do it perfectly. It's impossible to do it perfectly because we're flawed human beings. But am I going to sit here and really, truly take someone apart to the point of placing blame where it has no legal realm of belonging to justify my own beliefs, which I have taken 6 to 8 months and 14, 11 YouTubers to create? No. If I'm having that much time and difficulty circling my emotional toilet bowl to finally settle on something and go down to the, go down the drain on, then I'm going to sit back and say, I'm having a problem composting these portions of people's behavioral paths in their lives at this time, in this age range. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look into the 18 to 24 or the 22 to 30-year-old, what happens in the male brain, how are male brains that are insulated from society possibly different? How does the mother-son bond change after the age of accountability? What certain, like every other country has rites of passage for age groups. The U.S. has none. But I think YouTube has become like a rite of passage. So until you have someone really try to ruin you, it's like you're not a YouTuber. Until you had somebody really try to take your life apart, you're not a YouTuber. Maybe YouTube has become a rite of passage for a lot of the younger people that are on YouTube. Maybe people are using that now as a one of those combative rites of passage that you have to show you're an adult. And maybe we're terrified to acknowledge certain people as adults. Because if we acknowledge other people as adults, then we have to handle ourselves as an adult. And that can be very traumatic to some people. They would rather pick people apart and kind of remain in that extended juvenile period. And that's where they're more comfortable because they think they have outs on either end. They can act like adult, be requested to be respected like adult, but they can still run back and scream to mama. And you have to understand that 99% of people in the world don't live like that. Once you're 18, you're an adult, you're on your own, you handle your own issues, you're responsible for your own behavior. And mom may still love you and she may not agree with everything, but she's not going to chase you and tan your hide because, number one, that would be a legal issue we all don't want to get into. But you may have disapproving parents at sometimes. But it's not going to be broadcast on YouTube. So that's also the funniest thing I think is they think that every belief or product of the relationship between Patty and Ron must be broadcast on YouTube. They must have seen it. The only relationship they have is what we see here. That is their relationship. Do you think a relationship is that one-dimensional? They have a relationship that is so deep. It has so much depth and so much foundation from years and years and years of her raising her family. We only see a blink and an eye. And we have no idea about how that family functions, about how they love each other, how they express their love. We have no idea how that family functions. But yet people will make every assumption based on that flash in front of the camera that we get to see. That is not a valid control group that you can base everything else on. So just think about these things. Especially when you try to hold others accountable or you try to put blame on, or you're having these thoughts and it switches from let's look and try to understand behavior to let's place blame and they're 100% wrong and I can prove it to you and she's enabling. That's a lot of blame game. Instead of trying to force accountability on others, let's put accountability on ourselves and let's say I need to take a step back and try to understand all these different dynamics, how all these other people, may live beyond this screen, how all these other people may feel beyond this screen, and not just take this and make all of my decisions based on this little glimpse of knowledge, because it's just a flash in the pan. Take your step back, put the accountability on yourself, and try to blame no one, but try to understand everyone. And I really have tried to understand psychobabble, and I think he's got a lot of trauma in his past, and I think that he's had to endure a lot, and I feel really bad for him. But I think that in order to not deal with what he's endured, he takes out on others. And I think that is just karmic diarrhea. And I'm just not okay with that. I think that if he were to do a lot of work on himself, he could probably create a lot of dialogue and a lot of change in YouTube, but he would rather get paid for his aggression and aggro rants. And he's an adult, and I can't change that. I can't tell him what to do. But I certainly hope that he understands his viewers are all of all age ranges, because he doesn't do age restrictions. And he needs to be more careful what he says, especially about certain sexualized material. That concerns me. And I will go the extra mile and say that I don't always agree with how Ryan expresses himself, but I try to understand why he expresses himself in those ways as well. And I think he gets emotionally caught up in the aggregate of the very emotional conversations and kind of turns country ghetto. And I don't appreciate that from him either. I try to understand that. I wish that he would find a better way when he gets frustrated to verbalize, because it would then make me even more proud of him. But I also recognize he's an adult, and I can't change that. But I certainly would like for him to be accountable for what comes out of here, and to know that there are all age groups. There's not an age restriction on those channels also listening to him. So I place accountability on both of them, and I place accountability on me because I choose not to watch those videos. I choose not to put my support and give them a view or give them any ad revenue when they're doing things that I deem negative. I check out. So I try to, holding myself accountable, I try to only watch what I think are positive encounters with these people. And I just blocked Psychobabble. I don't think there's a positive encounter to be had with that man. I really tried. But with Ryan, I try to only watch the positive stuff. And he knows that I'm not up his butt, and I don't follow him around like a little dog. And I don't, when we speak, we have nice conversations. We challenge each other's thoughts, and then we go on. But I'm certainly not being led by the nose by anybody. But I do respect him as a human being, and I'm going to give him the same rights as I would give any other human being that is over the age of 18. And I'm going to say, yeah, I wish he would do these things, like I wish Psychobabble would do these things. But I also understand that I have to hold me accountable, and the only way I can impact them when they're doing negative things is to check out and not support it. That's it. So if you don't want to see negative things from people, check out and not support it. If they're really being fueled by finances, they will augment their behavior to a more positive rendition of self in order to keep that money flowing. I think what you'll find out is you would probably see one's behavior change before the others, because I think there is one that is very much financially driven in this regard. And that's it makes me sad that somebody would use such toxic, negative, harassing, shameful, guilt-ridden vernacular to make money on. It's just sad for me. But that's where I am on those two things. That's what I wanted to say, and I just didn't want to get into a conflict of trying to have a conversation that I knew was going to end up being combative, because there were key warnings that told me this was going to be combative. And I just didn't want to get in there. So I said, I'll do a video message. This is the easiest way for me to do this. Rachel says, someone mentioned Ryan reminds him of his son. I think that he's spot on. Yeah, he just attacks over and over. Yeah, I can't sit there and watch that, because it's just so toxic. And I know that Psychobabble's son it has passed away, and that there's a lot of emotional storm cloud around that. But I'm not responsible for a senior aged man's emotional complex. There are professional ways that he could get help rather than trying to spread his complex like mayonnaise over the whole sandwich of society. Just be aware of what you're doing energetically. It's very important to understand what you're doing energetically. And I have tried to, when Ryan does stuff, I will do videos and be like, really? That was tacky. Stay away from those flaming hot Cheetos. I've tried to say it in a kind manner to where it can be composted and he'll think about it. But I certainly can't tell him what to do. And I think if you were to try to tell him what to do, it would go south in an instant. But I do try to provoke thought and give options, because those are great ways to healthily affect people. And you give them options so that you don't put them in a corner and smack a label on their forehead. You give them options. That gives them opportunities to improve themselves, and most of the time they will go off and improve themselves. I've seen a lot of emotional maturity over the last 2 or 3 years, especially since the Cato Noel drama, and I'm very proud about that. Does he have other stuff he needs to work on? Heck yes, we all do. Some stuff he may never work on to the capacity that we work on, because he is insulated in that little society. And that's just because of his celebrity status and the security that he needs. And there are certain things that he may not experience to the level that we experience. And that would be hard to explain to him, because to him, his life is real life. And to us, our life is real life. And we have to just kind of understand there's a little gap in there that neither is probably going to 100% understand. And that is just the difference of that little bit of insulation due to celebrity status and the rawness that a lot of the rest of us feel. Now, he came from very humble beginnings, so I know that he gets the majority of it. But there are still things as he's aged that has not happened at key time frames like age-wise and mentally, neurologically, functioning wise, that would hit other people and make a different impact. So there's going to be some differences between all these groups of different people, and we just have to understand that. But we all have to somehow share reality and come to understand each other to where we can actually function together. And I'm not seeing a lot of function in especially Psychobabbles world. There's not a lot of function. Ryan has moments where I'm like, whoa, bring your eyebrows down, chill, but for the most part, he does function well. He does get very passionate. I can't say that's a negative. There's a lot of stuff we should get passionate about that our society has failed to stay on top of, and things have gotten out of hand. I think you should worry when a child goes missing. I think you should be concerned. I think you should ask questions. I think when we see law enforcement and regulations and state law being thrown out the wayside, we should go, what the crap? So I have no problem with him questioning and throwing out questions and opportunity. I even had no problem with him being like, I don't even know what's real. I don't even know if this girl's real. Because in an investigative mindset, you have to throw up all options. So I understood what he was saying was he was throwing up everything that he had tried to create as a timeline and an information pathway. When everything kind of imploded, he threw it all up and was like, I don't know what's real. I don't know if this girl's real anymore. He had to go back to square one in his brain, which was what that meant. And I understood he was starting over in it, and it irritated. It was frustrating. I've had to do that being ex-law enforcement when I've been investigating stuff and having to do warrants on people. I've had to be like, whoa, and start over because my investigation was fruitless or it hit a snag and was not what I thought, and I had to go back. And so I get the frustration. I understand where he's coming from. A lot of people took that emotionally rather than logistically. And I was like, oh, and it's because we live in a super hyper emotional world, and everyone, everyone's a Karen in their own right. And it's very frustrating. But we have to find a way to respect and function together. And so some people, I just say, sorry, I'm not going to be in your pond. I'll be over here. You do your thing, but I'm not going to be part of it. And so I choose not to engage because it would just be a negative venture. Other people see that and they go, that's a negative pond. I'm going to go jump in the middle of it and cause problems. That does not help people. That does not help. There is a small avenue to prompt change, and it's through very consistent, very baseline, behavior where people have no guesswork with you. They come in and know your foundation, they know your intent, and they feel very safe. And then you can start to really have dialogue about meaningful things. But it takes a long time to build that. And you don't find a lot of that on YouTube because everyone here is hyper emotional, fly by the seat of your pants. I want to find somebody that makes me feel good tonight for 3 hours because I can't sleep. And tomorrow I'll be on a different page in my brain and I'll find somebody else. So nobody is long-term learning to function, listen, or communicate with anyone anymore. And so we're having a hard time gelling as a society because we can turn the page so quickly in our brain and online that we don't think we have to deal with people and all their flaws anymore. And we do. And we do. And a lot of stuff that we want to pick apart, we can't pick apart, but we really want to because it makes us feel better. And then the people that truly have issues, we walk away from because they scare us, which is, I mean, it should be backwards. The people that truly have issues, we should try and go to help. And the people that we just frustrate us, we should learn how to deal with that. But it seems to be backwards in this society. But that's where my mind was going. I just wanted to clarify my thoughts on that. And, you know, we've got to know the difference between enabling from that psych profile word of enable to real world enabling to even empowerment gets drug into enabling sometimes. And for me, I think the only thing that I see from Patty is that she tries to create a very split line on YouTube. This is her YouTube. It's not about Ryan. And she tries to keep those boundaries. And when people come in and start to try to start a Ryan conversation, she kicks them out. She's been very consistent for me. I know that when I go to her page, I'm not going to be talking about Ryan. I'm going to be talking about vintage clothing or the Goodwill Bands or vintage jewelry or thrifting, or they're going to be having a positive conversation. Oh, one other thing was they thought that Johnny Gobble was manipulating Miss Patty. No. I think Johnny Gobble was very much close to trouble several months ago. And I think had it not been for Ryan poking at the bear and us all getting to know the bear and Miss Patty going, oh, wait, I see good qualities in that bear. Come here, bear. I won't poke you. And she generated a friendship that turned into a trust foundation that turned into them talking about ways that they could improve his world, his life, his mental state, his health overall. And he's changed. I don't think that he is manipulating anyone. I think that he has found a safe place to land with good people. And I hope that is prolonged enough for him to get established and have a better place in the society, have a little bit more of a safe space for himself financially, emotionally, physically. And there's nothing wrong with people showing love, tenderness, kindness, and support. I don't think that always equals manipulation. I also think that you have to have a power instability for manipulation. And right now, Miss Patty has all the power. If she wanted to cut off communication with him and send him out of her world in 5 seconds, she has the ability, the security, the means to do so. She has all the power. So there's not a power issue at play here. Johnny does not have the power. He's not manipulating. He's very much just being welcomed and accepted and loved. And if that were to prove to be something that, you know, he's trying to use inappropriately, I have no doubt that Miss Patty would be like, see ya, because she has very hard boundaries with people. So I don't think there's any manipulation going on there. You would have to have, you know, a very, very large power struggle going on, and Johnny would have to have the power to manipulate, and he does not have that power. So that would be a faulty premise. So I hope that Johnny continues to make friends and does well and has people that holds him accountable and loves him, because that seems to be what was missing in his world. And I think he's doing great and he looks wonderful and he's happy. It's the first time I've seen a soft eye on him and seen him happy. And I hope that continues, because don't we all want that life for ourselves? Shouldn't we want that for others? If you don't, question where your motives are. But there's 10 million different ways to look at this. You know, that's just my perspective from my training in my background with, retired parole officer, retired counselor, and all this stuff. There are other people that have other specialties will see it in a different way, I'm sure. But I think the biggest part here is people want to put different parameters on these people because their footprint is larger because they're celebrities. If it were just a normal or average Joe and his mom having these problems, they wouldn't blink an eye or think nothing of it because they wouldn't be able to get any kind of feedback or any kind of momentum or any kind of sponsoring or financial aid or fluff or even dopamine injection. They wouldn't be able to get anything from it. So they wouldn't seek it out. But because it's a celebrity with a larger footprint and it draws in people to talk about it, they talk about it. And they make it a big deal. And they say, oh, he's doing this horrible, horrible thing. Well, why isn't it a horrible, horrible thing when your next door neighbor does it? Oh, because it doesn't pay your bills emotionally or financially. Oh, so that's your motivation. Well, now we've discovered the problem. So I think what everyone can do just to be good human beings is put that accountability on yourself. Instead of blaming someone on blaming others or trying to create a guilt, shame, harassment, and blame environment, step back and say, how am I making this worse? How can I make it better? Because offloading on others normally is not a beneficial project to undertake. It will take you down a very dark path, and you will start to, and rather than work on yourself, work on others, so that you don't change and they do, and then everyone that spends time with you feels like a twisted piece of grapevine and they don't want to be around you. Just FYI. So always try to hold yourself accountable and create a welcoming environment for others, and make sure that they're there for the right reasons and that they're not being drawn in for you to benefit. And I think we see that prominently in one person's panels more than the others. So I'm going to shut up now, but that's what I wanted to share. That's my blech for the day. I've gotten to know Miss Patty a little bit. I've gotten to know Ryan a little bit. To me, they are the same people to me when they talk to me that they are on there. I find that consistency nice. I don't think that they create personas. Now, I think when Ryan performs, he has a persona, and I've told him to not get the persona and the person mixed up because that creates some issues later in life. And I think he does a pretty good job of that. I would like to see him calm down sometimes and not lash out sometimes verbally. That will come more with age. I hope. It doesn't seem to have done so in the other case scenario, but there are things everybody needs to work on, and I can hold everybody accountable for, I'd be like, you've got things to work on. You've got things to work on. I've got things to work on too, though. And I have to make sure that I don't skip me in order to tell everybody else that. So I have things to work on too. And one of my things that I've needed to work on for a long time is not going into conversations knowing that I'm being baited. I would still go into them. And so I pat myself on the back when I saw that, and I knew that it was combative and argumentative nature with illogical and completely not rational thoughts. I thought, this is not going to be a good conversation. I don't need to have it. And I'm not going to waste my good time with my husband and my good mood this weekend on someone else's bad mood or negative take. I'm just going to wait until a video response. And I really hope that this was just a one-off for this person. I hope that maybe they've just been in the tumble of that environment so long that they realize, oh, shucks, it's sticking to me. I need to get out of it. Because that's not a good mindset. And there are already some, just from the person I've talked to for over a year, just to that one encounter, there were specific changes. And the only thing that I know they're doing different is spending time in that one panel live. If it prompts changes that quickly, check yourself, question yourself, look in the mirror, and see if that's a change that you want to keep moving with, or that it kind of scares you that people are noticing that. Maybe you need to think about spending more time there. We are who we spend our time with. The top 5 people you spend your time with are the top 5 people that you emulate. And I always try to pick smarter and much more gracious people. I always want to be the stupidest person in the room because then I've got upward momentum. I never want to be the smartest person in the room because then I got nowhere to go but down. So always challenge yourself and the people that you surround yourself with, and go out there and tell yourself that you deserve great friends, great people to surround yourself with, and shoot for the stars. Meet those people you want to meet. Talk to those people you want to talk to, and improve yourself mentally, emotionally. Do it. And you'll be amazed at who will respond positively if you go out there with positive vibes. So I'm going to end on that. I love you guys. I'm going to make me some dinner and chill. It's been a rest day for my body. We'll be back to normal crafting tomorrow. I'm going to do some stuff tonight to prep, but regularly scheduled programming tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.